What if I told you that millions of years before T-Rex ever existed, there was a predator with a massive sail on its back, razor-sharp teeth, and the ability to dominate its world? What if this ancient killer wasn't even a dinosaur, but something far more ancient and mysterious? Today, we're uncovering the story of Dimetrodon, a creature so unique that it challenges everything you thought you knew about prehistoric life. And we're asking the ultimate question: what if this sail-backed monster still prowled our planet today? Now we continue our documentary with extinct species today. Dimetrodon lombatus. A name that sounds like it belongs to a dinosaur, but this creature lived long before dinosaurs ever walked the earth. In fact, Dimetrodon is more closely related to you and me than it is to any dinosaur. This revelation alone makes Dimetrodon one of the most fascinating creatures in paleontological history. The first Dimetrodon fossils were discovered in the late 19th century in Texas and Oklahoma, United States. Paleontologists uncovered remarkably complete skeletons that revealed an animal unlike anything seen before. The most striking feature was immediately obvious: a massive sail-like structure rising from its back, supported by elongated spinal bones called neural spines. This sail could reach heights of up to 1 meter, making Dimetrodon instantly recognizable. Dimetrodon lived during the early Permian Period, approximately 295 to 272 million years ago. To put this in perspective, this was about 40 million years before the first dinosaurs appeared. The world of the Permian was dramatically different from the age of dinosaurs. The supercontinent Pangaea was forming, bringing together all of Earth's land masses. The climate was generally warm and humid, with vast swamps, river deltas, and coastal lowlands dominating the landscape. The size of Dimetrodon varied among different species, but the largest specimens reached lengths of 3.5 to 4.5 meters from nose to tail. They stood about 1 meter tall at the shoulder and weighed between 200 to 250 kilograms. While not gigantic by dinosaur standards, Dimetrodon was one of the largest predators of its time, an apex predator that ruled the early Permian ecosystems. But what exactly was Dimetrodon? Here's where things get interesting. Despite its reptilian appearance, Dimetrodon was not a dinosaur, not a reptile in the modern sense, and certainly not a lizard. Dimetrodon belonged to a group called synapsids, specifically pelycosaurs. Synapsids are the lineage that eventually gave rise to mammals. Yes, that means Dimetrodon is technically more closely related to humans, dogs, and whales than it is to crocodiles, lizards, or dinosaurs. This mammalian connection is evident in several features. Dimetrodon's skull had a single temporal opening behind each eye socket, a characteristic feature of synapsids. Its teeth were differentiated into different types, including large canine-like teeth for stabbing and smaller teeth for gripping and tearing. This dental diversity, called heterodonty, is a mammalian trait rarely seen in reptiles. Additionally, some scientists believe Dimetrodon may have had a faster metabolism than typical reptiles, another step toward mammalian physiology. The most famous feature of Dimetrodon is undoubtedly its sail. This structure has been the subject of intense scientific debate for over a century. What was its purpose? Several theories have been proposed, and the truth likely involves multiple functions working together. The most widely accepted theory is thermoregulation. The sail was covered with skin rich in blood vessels. In the cool mornings, Dimetrodon could orient its sail toward the sun, allowing the large surface area to quickly warm its blood. This would raise its body temperature faster than other animals, giving Dimetrodon an advantage. It could become active earlier in the day when potential prey was still sluggish. Conversely, if Dimetrodon became too hot, it could position the sail away from the sun or into the wind, helping to cool down. This thermoregulatory system would have been a significant evolutionary advantage. However, thermoregulation doesn't explain everything. The sail was also likely used for display. Just as peacocks use their elaborate tails to attract mates, Dimetrodon may have used its sail in mating rituals. Males with larger, more colorful sails might have been more attractive to females. The sail could also have been used in territorial disputes, making individuals appear larger and more intimidating to rivals. Some scientists suggest the sail stored fat, serving as an energy reserve during times when food was scarce. Others propose it helped with species recognition, allowing Dimetrodon to identify members of their own species from a distance. The sail might have even played a role in intimidating prey or rivals, making Dimetrodon appear larger and more threatening. The reality is probably that the sail served all these functions to varying degrees. Evolution rarely creates single-purpose structures. The sail's multiple benefits would have made it highly advantageous, explaining why it evolved to such dramatic proportions in Dimetrodon. Dimetrodon's skull reveals it was a formidable predator. The jaws were powerful, capable of delivering crushing bites. The teeth were sharp and curved backward, perfect for gripping struggling prey. The different tooth sizes suggest Dimetrodon could handle a variety of prey animals. Large canines could puncture thick skin and deliver killing bites, while smaller teeth could strip meat from bones. What did Dimetrodon hunt? The early Permian world was full of potential prey. Large amphibians like Archaeops wallowed in swamps and rivers. These creatures, some reaching 2 meters in length, would have been challenging prey, but Dimetrodon's powerful jaws could overcome them. Smaller amphibians, early reptiles, and fish were also on the menu. Some evidence suggests Dimetrodon may have even been cannibalistic, with larger individuals preying on smaller members of their own species. Hunting strategies probably varied. Dimetrodon's body structure suggests it wasn't a fast runner. Its legs sprawled out to the sides like a lizard's, rather than being positioned directly under the body like mammals or dinosaurs. This stance meant Dimetrodon probably moved with a side-to-side swaying motion, limiting its speed. Rather than chasing down prey, Dimetrodon likely relied on ambush tactics. It would wait near water sources or game trails, using vegetation for cover, then lunge at prey that came too close. The thermoregulatory advantage of the sail would have been crucial for hunting. By warming up faster than other animals, Dimetrodon could hunt during times when potential prey was still cold and slow. This gave it a significant edge. Imagine a cool Permian morning. Most animals are sluggish, waiting for the sun to warm their bodies. But Dimetrodon, sail angled toward the rising sun, is already active, its metabolism running at full speed. It's hunting while others are vulnerable. Social behavior in Dimetrodon is difficult to determine from fossils alone. However, several lines of evidence suggest they were largely solitary. Fossil sites rarely show multiple adult Dimetrodon together, suggesting they didn't live in groups. This makes sense for large predators, which typically need large territories to find enough food. Males probably competed fiercely for territory and mating rights, using their sails in displays of dominance. Reproduction would have involved laying eggs, as with all early synapsids. Females likely laid clutches of eggs in warm, protected areas, perhaps in rotting vegetation where decomposition heat would help incubate them. Parental care, if any existed, was probably minimal. Young Dimetrodon would have hatched vulnerable and small, needing to quickly learn to hunt to survive. Growth would have been relatively rapid, with individuals reaching adult size within several years. The environment Dimetrodon inhabited was lush and productive. Vast swamps dominated by tree-sized club mosses and horsetails created dense forests. Ferns carpeted the ground. Rivers and deltas created intricate waterways. The climate was warm year-round, with high humidity. This created perfect conditions for amphibians, which thrived in enormous diversity. Early reptiles were also diversifying, experimenting with life on land. Dimetrodon sat at the top of the food chain. Its only real competitors were other large predators, including other species of sail-backed synapsids. Competition for food and territory would have been intense. The fossil record shows that multiple predator species coexisted, suggesting the ecosystem was rich enough to support them all, but encounters between rival predators must have been tense affairs. Around 272 million years ago, Dimetrodon disappeared from the fossil record. The reasons for its extinction are still debated. Climate change was likely a factor. The Permian climate became increasingly arid over time. Swamps dried up, forests thinned, and the lush wetlands Dimetrodon depended on shrank. Additionally, new competitors evolved. More advanced synapsids, some with more efficient body structures and possibly faster metabolisms, may have outcompete Dimetrodon. The end Permian mass extinction occurring about 252 million years ago, was the most catastrophic extinction event in Earth's history, wiping out over 90% of all species. However, Dimetrodon was already gone by this time. It had vanished during earlier, less dramatic environmental shifts. The lineage that Dimetrodon belonged to eventually gave rise to therapsids, more advanced mammal-like reptiles, which in turn evolved into true mammals over tens of millions of years. Today, Dimetrodon's legacy lives on in every mammal. The evolutionary innovations seen in Dimetrodon, differentiated teeth, more efficient jaws, and possibly the beginnings of improved metabolism, were steps toward mammalian traits. When you look at a dog, a horse, or even your own reflection, you're seeing the distant descendants of creatures that shared the world with Dimetrodon. Now, let's engage our imagination. What if Dimetrodon had never gone extinct? What if, through some twist of evolutionary fate, this sail-backed predator still prowled modern Earth? The implications would be staggering. First, consider habitat. Modern Dimetrodon would need warm, humid environments with access to water. Tropical and subtropical regions would be ideal. The swamps of Florida, the Amazon rainforest, Southeast Asian wetlands, and the river systems of Central Africa could potentially support Dimetrodon populations. These areas have abundant prey and the warm temperatures Dimetrodon would need. However, thermoregulation works both ways. In extremely hot midday temperatures, Dimetrodon might overheat despite its cooling mechanisms. It would need to seek shade or water during the hottest parts of the day. This could make it primarily a dawn, dusk, and nighttime hunter in tropical regions, avoiding the intense midday heat. The sail would be both an advantage and a vulnerability. While helping with temperature control, it would also be a large, fragile structure. Injuries to the sail could be debilitating. Dense forests might be problematic, as the sail could get caught on vegetation. Dimetrodon would likely prefer more open wetlands and forest edges where it could move freely. In terms of prey, modern Dimetrodon would have abundant options. In Florida's swamps, it could hunt alligators, large fish, water birds, and even small mammals. In the Amazon, caimans, capybaras, large rodents, and fish would be available. Southeast Asia offers monitor lizards, fish, birds, and small deer. Dimetrodon's hunting style, ambush predation near water, would work perfectly in these environments. However, Dimetrodon would face competition from modern predators. Crocodiles and alligators occupy similar ecological niches. These reptiles are highly efficient predators with millions of years of evolution fine-tuning their hunting abilities. Dimetrodon, with its more primitive body structure, might struggle to compete. Large constrictors like anacondas and pythons would also be rivals. In Africa, Dimetrodon would contend with Nile crocodiles, one of the most formidable predators on the planet. Human interaction would be inevitable and problematic. Dimetrodon would be large enough to be dangerous. While not as fast or agile as modern predators, its powerful jaws could inflict terrible injuries. A 250-kilogram predator with a mouth full of sharp teeth, lurking in murky water, would be a serious threat. Attacks on humans, livestock, and pets would certainly occur. Imagine living near a Florida swamp where Dimetrodon hunts. You'd need to be extremely cautious near water. Swimming would be dangerous. Pets let outside could become prey. Livestock near water sources would need protection. The distinctive sail would at least provide a visual warning. If you saw that sail cutting through the water or rising from the vegetation, you'd know to keep your distance. Conservation status would be complicated. On one hand, Dimetrodon would be an incredible species deserving protection. It would represent an ancient lineage, a living fossil connecting us to the deep past. Scientists would be desperate to study it. On the other hand, its danger to humans and livestock would create intense pressure to eliminate it, especially in populated areas. We'd likely see a situation similar to crocodile conservation, protected in reserves and national parks, but controlled or eliminated in areas with high human populations. Breeding programs in captivity would ensure the species' survival even if wild populations declined. Zoos worldwide would clamor for Dimetrodon exhibits, and they would be star attractions. The sail would make Dimetrodon incredibly photogenic. Wildlife documentaries would feature it prominently. The image of a sail rising from the water as Dimetrodon stalks prey would be iconic. Tourism to see Dimetrodon in the wild could be a significant economic driver, similar to African safaris or Galapagos tours. Boat tours through Dimetrodon habitats could be organized, keeping tourists safe while providing views of these magnificent creatures. Scientifically, living Dimetrodon would revolutionize our understanding of early synapsid biology. We could study its metabolism, behavior, and physiology directly. Does the sail really function for thermoregulation as theorized? How does Dimetrodon's metabolism compare to modern reptiles and mammals? What are its communication methods? How does it learn and adapt? These questions, impossible to answer from fossils, could be explored with living specimens. Genetic analysis would be particularly exciting. Dimetrodon's genome would provide insights into the early evolution of mammalian traits. We could trace the genetic pathways that eventually led to hair, mammary glands, and warm-bloodedness. This would be invaluable for understanding our own evolutionary history. Behaviorally, we might discover unexpected complexity. Perhaps Dimetrodon has social behaviors we couldn't detect from fossils. Maybe there are elaborate courtship rituals involving the sail. Young Dimetrodon might learn hunting techniques from their mothers, showing more parental care than we assumed. Every observation would be a new discovery. The sail itself would be endlessly fascinating to study. What colors does it display? Can Dimetrodon control blood flow to change the sail's appearance? Using it for communication? How does it heal if damaged? Are there seasonal changes in the sail's condition? Does the sail differ between males and females, or among individuals? Culturally, Dimetrodon would become an icon. Its distinctive appearance would make it instantly recognizable. Unlike crocodiles or sharks, which can look similar to each other, Dimetrodon would be unique. It would appear in movies, not as a dinosaur, a common mistake even now with fossils, but correctly portrayed as an ancient mammalian ancestor. Indigenous peoples and regions where Dimetrodon lived would incorporate it into their traditions and stories. The sail-backed hunter would become a creature of legend, respected and feared. Modern cultures would embrace Dimetrodon as a symbol, perhaps of uniqueness or adaptation. Sports teams might adopt it as a mascot. Conservation organizations would use its image to raise awareness about protecting ancient species and preserving wetlands. However, challenges would abound. Pollution, habitat destruction, and climate change would threaten Dimetrodon just as they threaten countless species today. Wetlands, already among the most threatened ecosystems, would need even greater protection. The specialized habitat needs of Dimetrodon would make it vulnerable to environmental changes. Invasive species could be problematic. In many tropical regions, invasive predators like pythons and Nile perch have devastated native species. Dimetrodon might suffer from competition with these invaders, or conversely, might prey heavily on native species already under pressure, accelerating their decline. Disease is another concern. Modern pathogens might affect Dimetrodon in unpredictable ways. As a species that evolved in isolation from modern diseases, Dimetrodon could be highly vulnerable. Conversely, Dimetrodon might carry ancient pathogens that could jump to modern animals or even humans, posing public health risks. Climate change presents perhaps the greatest threat. Rising temperatures might seem beneficial for a creature that needs warmth, but the reality is more complex. Extreme heat could be dangerous. Changing rainfall patterns could dry up wetlands Dimetrodon depends on. Sea level rise could flood coastal habitats. The rapid pace of modern climate change might not give Dimetrodon time to adapt. In a world with living Dimetrodon, we'd face difficult choices. How much are we willing to sacrifice to preserve this ancient predator? Are we prepared to limit development, restrict water use, and share our spaces with a potentially dangerous animal? History shows we struggle with these questions even for well-loved species like tigers and elephants. For a more alien creature like Dimetrodon, with its strange appearance and ancient lineage, would we show the same commitment? Yet the existence of Dimetrodon would also inspire. It would be a living reminder that life is ancient, diverse, and resilient. It would show that evolution takes unexpected paths, creating forms we can barely imagine. It would connect us tangibly to a time before dinosaurs, before flowers, before most of the world we know existed. Children growing up with Dimetrodon would develop a deeper appreciation for evolutionary history. They'd learn that mammals didn't suddenly appear, but evolved gradually over hundreds of millions of years. they'd understand that creatures like Dimetrodon were steps in that journey. This educational value alone would be immense. The story of Dimetrodon, whether extinct or imagined as living, teaches us humility. It reminds us that humans are newcomers, that Earth has hosted countless life forms long before us. It shows that even dominant predators, perfectly adapted to their environment, can vanish when conditions change. This is a warning we must heed as we face our own environmental challenges. Dimetrodon also teaches us about the value of the strange and unusual. This wasn't a conventional predator. Its sail was bizarre, its lineage unexpected, its place in evolutionary history surprising. Yet it thrived for millions of years. This reminds us that nature's solutions are often unconventional, and that diversity in form and function is a strength, not a weakness. As we look to the future, the ghost of Dimetrodon asks us questions. Will we preserve the wild places where such creatures could exist? Will we maintain the habitat diversity that allows unusual species to survive? Will we be wise enough to coexist with creatures that challenge us, that might be dangerous or inconvenient, but are nonetheless valuable? The answers we give will determine not just the fate of species alive today, but the potential for life in all its strange and wonderful forms to continue. Dimetrodon had its time. Its descendants, the mammals, now dominate the world. But the spirit of Dimetrodon, the ancient hunter with the magnificent sail, lives on in the evolutionary heritage we all share. Dimetrodon lumbatus, the sailback predator that ruled before dinosaurs. A creature so unique it challenges our understanding of prehistoric life. Today, only fossils remain, but they tell an incredible story of adaptation, survival, and evolutionary innovation. The sail that made Dimetrodon famous was more than decoration. It was a sophisticated tool for survival, a statement of dominance, and a step toward the mammalian characteristics we see in ourselves. Dimetrodon reminds us that evolution is full of surprises, that life finds creative solutions to challenges, and that the path from ancient predators to modern mammals is far stranger than we often imagine. What do you think? If Dimetrodon still existed today, would you want to encounter one in the wild? Could modern ecosystems support such an ancient predator? And most intriguing of all, what other secrets might this sail-backed hunter reveal if we could study it alive? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. If this journey through deep time fascinated you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. We have countless more extinct species waiting to be explored, each with their own incredible stories of survival, adaptation, and mystery. Until next time on Extinct Species Today, respect the past, protect the future.